44-13, the final score here inside Beaver Stadium as Penn State knocks off Ball State and improves to 2-0 on the season. Welcome into the Unrivaled Pregame Show. I'm your host, Mitch Gerber. Taking a live look at some of the highlights from today's contest. As you see, Arnold Ebikadi picking up a sack right there. Here we go, 24-3 contest, 1:58 left in the second quarter. Another defensive highlight for Penn State. A lot of defense in this contest today, mixed with some offensive explosions. This game was really Penn State from start to finish. Jesse Lucetta right there with an interception, a pick six, the first of his career. Here we are, 34-6 with 35 seconds left in the third quarter. Another pick six here. Not pick six, rather. That's just an interception from Daquan Hardy. That was his first of his career. And then Noah Kane with a nice little touchdown towards the left side. 7-0 Penn State. Sean Clifford tacks on right there to make it a 14-0 lead on a 1-yard rushing touchdown. And here's Jahan Dotson, the second touchdown on the season for number 5, one of the top wide receivers in the country. Jesse Lucetta, man, that was one of the primetime plays in this matchup. Welcome into the Unrivaled Postgame Show. A fast start as Penn State picks up their second victory on the season and improves to 2-0 before they turn the page towards the Penn State whiteout. Penn State Auburn next weekend. But we've got a lot to preview between now and then, including today's matchup, as we'll hear from head coach James Franklin coming up here momentarily live on set. We'll also visit with a couple of select Penn State student athletes before they ultimately leave the stadium and turn that page towards Auburn. Heck of a performance today from the offense, as I mentioned. An overall good performance from them on the day. 493 total yards, 240 of those on the ground, and 253 through the air. Parker Washington, talk about a guy as a wideout that has had some explosive plays the last couple of games. This one specifically, this game, a couple of big-time plays from him, number 3 on the wide receiving core. Here we see again Parker Washington with a nice reception, doing a little bit of dancing, picking up that first down, 14-3 contest. And here we are again, Jahan Dotson with that electric touchdown. This one came on a Clifford to Dotson connection, 25 yards, making it 24-3. Another nice little pickup here on the offensive side of the football. Jahan Dotson continues to be one of those offensive weapons for Penn State that continues to move those chains day in and day out. Both on the field and off the field, he has continued to be an emphasis for this program. As we continue here on the Unrivaled Postgame Show, be sure to submit your questions and your comments on today's game, as we'll try to get to those throughout today's show after Penn State picks up their second victory on the season. And if you did miss the Unrivaled Postgame Show earlier on today, be sure to go back and watch that one, as we had Brandon Short, an all-time great here at Penn State linebacker, discuss how he continues to be a mentor for some of these linebackers, just as we saw today with Jesse Lucetta, as Lucetta continues to be a threat out there on the defensive side of the football with the transition between linebacker and defensive end. Great game for Penn State. Take on Auburn next week. That one comes from Josh, who is watching the Unrivaled Postgame Show. Now check out this stat right here. When Penn State rushes the ball for more than 200 yards, 31 times in James Franklin's tenure, Penn State has done so and picked up the victory. So move that to 32 times all time in James Franklin's career to make it 27-5 all time when Penn State rushes for 200 yards or more. Here's Kevon Lee, who we'll visit with here shortly on the Unrivaled Postgame Show. He was just 66 yards shy of 500 career rushing yards coming into today's contest, as he eclipsed that 500 career rushing yard mark with 68 total yards on the ground today from Kevon Lee. Good to see the rushing offense get a little momentum underneath them after that Week 1 performance in the second half. Penn State has continued to develop that momentum offensively, as they will ultimately now look to continue that against Auburn. Kevon Lee doing a nice job getting some of that momentum, as well as Noah Kane in the backfield for J1's cider room. Now on the defensive side of the football, same is true when it comes to rushing defense. When Penn State holds an opponent to under 200 yards, or under 100 yards rushing rather, 35 times since 2014. They are now 29-6 in those games when holding an opponent to under 100 yards rushing. Brent Pry's group came to play today. That first offensive possession for Ball State was a quick 3 and out to be able to turn the ball over towards Penn State, which ultimately would allow Penn State to capitalize on a 13-play, 78-yard drive, and capped off by Noah Kane on a 4-minute and 33-second drive. 44-13, the final score, as we visit with head coach James Franklin. And Coach, where do you take the biggest progression from today within your program?
Well, I thought we started faster on offense. I thought we were more consistent in the running game. I thought early on we protected Sean well. I think we're still giving up a few too many hits there. But I just thought offense, defense, and special teams, we played really well in all three phases. So that was probably the biggest difference. I thought we were very efficient on offense early on.
You mentioned the three phases of the game: offense, defense, special teams. Jesse Lucetta comes up with a big-time interception, the first of his career, a pick six. How good was it to see number 40 able to accomplish that?
Yeah, I'm proud of him. Here he is as a senior. Going into the season, he wasn't sure what his role was going to be, where he was going to play, but he just trusted. He trusted the coaches and he trusted the program. And right now I think this is a huge win for Jesse Lucetta, and I think it's a huge win for Penn State and our football program. He's showing how much flexibility he has. Smart football player. That was a big time play. It was as good of an interception I've seen since we've been here.
Flip to the offensive side of the football, you were able to establish the ground game really throughout today's contest and get some of those other backs running besides Noah Kane. How does that factor in now moving forward for their rushing offense to be able to help capitalize? Yeah,
I thought it was great. Like I said early on, I thought we were much more efficient with everything we did. Late in the second half, we were able to get the running game going even more. I think we got some really good backs, and obviously Sean showed, what we have known for a long time, that he can run. He can make big plays in the running game as well, and you better defend him, and you better be ready for his impact in the game from the running aspect too.
To be able to get some of those other guys in on the two deep side of things, how important is that at this point in the season?
Yeah, we were hoping that we'd be able to do that. You want to be careful talking like that before the game, because I think it sets kind of the wrong mentality with your team. But it was really good to be able to get some of those guys some reps. Taquan, I could name a bunch of guys. It's going to be interesting to see the list of how many guys actually played in the game. They didn't score a touchdown on our starting defense. They were able to get a touchdown there late against our twos. But again, that was still valuable. When I say twos, it's really threes, because the twos rotate in anyway.
Coach, this is the first time in nearly 2 years that fans of full attendance was inside Beaver Stadium. How did they make an impact in this contest?
Yeah, just in general, Thursday night, you see the RVs start to come into town. Friday, you feel the electricity is different. We haven't felt that in a long time. Saturday, taking the blue buses, from the hotel to the stadium. The greeting we got from the fans was awesome. The amount of students that were in early before the game even got started, that meant a lot to us, and we need that, and we appreciate that. And then the place was rocking. I don't know how many penalties. I know there was one late there, but 105,000, one of the largest attendances for opening game of the season that we've had in a long time, I think since 2008.
Oh, you mentioned the momentum of that crowd and how they can shape a factor. They certainly did today against Ball State. Coach, appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
44-13, the final score as Penn State improves to 2-0 on the season, and will now ultimately turn the page towards Auburn for the Penn State Whiteout. As Coach mentioned, the crowd, as you're hearing behind us right now, clapping for head coach James Franklin, they play a huge factor inside Beaver Stadium and throughout the week in town, as Coach Franklin mentioned. And obviously, a lot to take away from today's game, both positively and from the fans' perspective. So a lot of momentum from this game, able to now shift and move forward. And Penn State will now shift their attention towards Auburn this upcoming weekend. Fans, once again, if you missed the Unrivaled pregame show earlier on today, be sure to go back and watch that, as we'll have, as we had exclusive looks to Team Arrival. We visited with linebacker, Penn State legend Brandon Short. We also heard from wide receivers coach Taylor Stubblefield and what makes Jahan Dotson so special from his perspective. So if you're able to go back and watch that, please do so. And obviously, we have the Unrivaled podcast every single week for the fans of Penn State football. If you want to go and listen to those exclusive episodes, please go back and do so. Brandon Smith and Curtis Jacobs were the latest guest on the Unrivaled podcast as they talked about that first victory against Wisconsin and then playing in front of 107,000 plus inside Beaver Stadium. Not everybody gets to experience it, so from their perspective, what is that like? Go check out that podcast episode to be able to find out exactly what they say. Let's roll through some of those highlights one more time in this contest as once again Penn State improves to 2-0 on the season, 44-13 the final score. Coach Franklin was talking about Sean Clifford and his ability to get comfortable. You see it right there with a nice little rush towards the right side and then ultimately punches in a 1-yard rushing touchdown, the 9th overall on his career, to increase the lead 14-0 in this contest. Now you see him rolling away out of the pocket, making a nice pass over to the left side to be able to pick up a first down there, and Clifford with the wheels on him, able to pick up a first down there and slide. That was a big emphasis last year, and then back in 2019 for Coach Franklin, we got to get him to be able to slide. Here he is right here, picking up another first down. So overall, Sean Clifford doing a great job with the progression to be able to look towards his first, second, third option and realize that it's not open and go for that first down as it relates to legs. Here's Sean Clifford throwing a pass to Parker Washington. Parker Washington was a huge asset for Penn State today. Here you see him in the first quarter with 7:03 left on the clock, picking up a first down. Now we're in a 14-3 contest here, second quarter, 13:15 left on the clock. Again, Parker Washington on 3rd and 5, picking up a first down, making a couple of nice shifty moves to be able to pick up that first down. And then Jahan Dotson towards the right side. I mean, Jahan Dotson, the freak athlete that he is, to be able to make defenders miss like that, score. It's a big-time player right there and a big-time program, as he will most certainly be needed next week. I want to go back to a point that Coach Franklin made about being able to get some guys experience. So that's not only the 2 deep, as he said, that's also the 3 deep. Picking up valuable experience is crucial, especially at this point in the season, as you saw with Taquan Roberson connecting with Theo Johnson to ultimately pick up that final touchdown for Penn State that extended their lead and made the final score of 44-13. Linebacker and defensive end Jesse Lucetta going to join us here momentarily as we're going to take a look at his highlight on the pick 6 to be able to push Penn State ahead even further in this contest. A big-time play from Lucetta in this game, the first of his career, a pick 6, 3rd quarter, 6 minutes left on the clock. Again, the first of his career, sets that student section up in arms. Jesse, take us through that play, the first pick 6 of your career.
I mean, it took me long enough. You know, there's been times where I've been playing in Beaver Stadium where I've dropped the ball, so, you know, I told myself, I seen it, I felt it. I seen a running back leak out, you know, I stopped my rush, and I was like, no, just put your hand out. And when he threw it, I got my paw on it, and I just caught it with one hand. I know Coach Franklin, I'm going to hear about it in the meeting tomorrow about my ball security, and I just started running with it with one hand on the ball. But, hey, we scored. That's all that matters.
You scored, you went in the end zone, and then at that point, what was going through your head looking up and seeing the student section, a moment that you dreamed of?
It's funny because right before that happened, Coach Terry was on the sideline. He told us we need to get the stadium into it. So I'm like, all right. Got the ball. I went straight to the student section. I just started pointing, and I just heard them go crazy. And, I mean, that's what we live for. You know what I mean? There's no better feeling. First time having a home game in the past, 2 years? And, you know, we get to celebrate with our student section, our whole fans, 105,000. There's no better feeling.
The first time that you have been able to play in front of a crowd like that in nearly 2 years, as you mentioned. How did they make an impact in this contest?
A huge impact. You know, we feed off it. You know, next week when we have Auburn come for that whiteout, we need more. You know what I mean? We feed off it, especially third down, pre-game. When our offense is on the field and the quarterback can't communicate with the offensive line, it's important. It's going to be detrimental to their success. So, I mean, we have a home field advantage, and there's nothing like playing in Beaver Stadium.
Oh, and see that student section show up with nearly an hour left on the game clock, ticking down and filling up had to be pretty cool from a player's perspective. But when it comes to your game overall, obviously you got some more reps at the linebacker position today. Where do you feel you've progressed the most over 2 weeks?
Honestly, I've been feeling more comfortable by the defensive line position. You know, the title of me being a hybrid is allowing us to be so much more dominant with our defense. You know, we have guys who could play so many roles. You know, just owning my role personally from when it's time for me to play linebacker, from where I need, or it's time for me to play defensive end. It's just doing whatever I can to be disruptive and the most disruptive player on the field. That's been one of my goals throughout the whole year.
You mentioned being a disruptive player. How do you feel you've been able to accomplish being that type of player, that style of player, especially on the defensive line?
I mean, the past 2 weeks, I feel like I've done my part, my due diligence in being disruptive. You know, if where the ball's at, I need to find my way to it. You know, whether it's shedding the block, beating the tackle, or just running by people to get to it. So that's how I think I view it.
What's been the biggest challenge you've had to overcome on that defensive front?
Honestly, at first I thought it would have been just, as far as, getting comfortable in the position. But, once I really, got into the position, it was like bread and butter for me. I felt comfortable. It was natural. When it's time to compete, that's when my true self comes out. So I love it. It's giving my brothers a more opportunity for us to be successful. So, if I got to do it, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
In the second half, Ellis Brooks was able to come back out after being on the sidelines for that first half due to a targeting call against Wisconsin. What was your message to him before you went back out on the field?
I told him it's time. I was excited to go back to the line. I told him, Ellis, come on, it's your time. Let me go back to the line, do what I do best, and let's do it. So he was excited to finally get back in the game. He was great. He was great on the sideline throughout the first half. He was vested into the game, making sure the young guys were locked in. And he's a leader for this team. I was so happy for him to be able to come back in the second half and do what he does best.
Jesse Lucetta, appreciate your time. Thanks for stopping by on the Unrivaled Postgame Show as he picks up the first pick six of his career. Let's take one more look at that highlight right here. Here he is towards the right side. Lucetta, just as he mentioned, with the left-handed paw, he's carrying it into the end zone. He said that Coach Franklin is probably going to get on him tomorrow as he laughs in the distance, going back to the locker room. Lucetta with the first pick six of his career on that play. Angela, incredible pick by Jesse right there. Could not agree more. Great job, guys. Francis says to the Penn State football program. Great game. 2-0 looks good on you boys. Could not agree more there. Great comment from you. As you see in the background right here, this is the exclusiveness of the Unrivaled Postgame Show. You're getting the golf cart rolling behind us. You saw head coach James Franklin get some applause from some fans that were still here inside Beaver Stadium. And how about these new lights in the tunnel? This is a new addition for the team arrival as they ultimately come out of the locker room. They come right behind the set right here. You see all these lights. Pre-game, if you missed it, be sure to go back on the television broadcast and watch that. These lights are going 16 different directions, and then they take the field with a nice new 1-0 banner. The last time that they see that message, which is emphasized every single week from the top down, to be able to just go 1-0 and focus on that opponent. That opponent today was Ball State. It now turns towards Auburn for that Penn State wideout. And as Jesse Lucetta said, every single fan in attendance, not just students, are a huge emphasis to the success of this program. 105,000 fans in attendance today for this matchup between Penn State and Ball State. And as Coach Franklin messaged, that sets a record. I believe it was back in 2008 rather. This was the highest season opening attendance since 2008 when it was 106,577 against Coastal Carolina. The energy was real. It was palpable in there today as Penn State took the field. It was loud. It was arguably as loud as it's been, obviously, in years. But since that Michigan game back in 2019, it was electric. The intensity was high. The fireworks were booming. If you can make it to a game this season, by all means, be a part of the difference maker for this Penn State football program. Now, if you are coming to the game next weekend, be sure to download your mobile tickets ahead of time to be able to save time at the gate. You'll see some new metal detectors and everything that are a part of the process to be able to get into the stadium. The sooner that you look that stuff up, the easier it will be to get inside. When having a conversation with some fans in attendance today, that was the exact phrase from them. The sooner you download it, the quicker you get in. So that helps speed up the process for any of you that are coming into next week's game between Penn State and Auburn. Know before you go is the slogan for Penn State as far as arriving to the game. 44-13, the final score here inside Beaver Stadium. The first time that Penn State's been back here to play in front of a mass capacity crowd in nearly 650 days. Today also was 9/11 as Penn State football and Penn State athletics recognized the Dwyer family. Patrick Dwyer passed away back in 2001 on this very day on the 105th floor of the First World Trade Center tower. An emotional moment for the Dwyer family out at the coin toss as Joanne, the widow and the wife of Patrick, and their two kids were able to go out there and be a part of that special moment that Penn State football and Penn State athletics recognized them for, as Patrick Dwyer gone way too soon on one of the darkest days in America's history. If you weren't able to watch that feature, go back on Penn State football social channels and be able to do so. About 6 minutes worth of phenomenal content from Joanne Dwyer and one of Penn State's kicker alums to be able to tell the story about Patrick Dwyer and why he was so in love with Penn State and how he would have absolutely embraced this moment and was embracing the moment from up above today as his wife and 2 kids got to experience that in front of a full capacity crowd cheering them on for the coin toss. Penn State shifts their attention next week towards Auburn, as it will be Penn State and Auburn prime time fashion. ABC, Penn State whiteouts. Getting chills just thinking about it. I know all the fans out there are as well. It's going to be one heck of an electric atmosphere. Let's take a look at a couple more of those highlights as we await our final guest on the Unrivaled Postgame Show today. We'll hope to visit with running back Kevon Lee as he eclipses that 500 career rushing yard mark, as we take a look back at some of the defensive highlights from today's contest. Joey Porter Jr.'s continue to be one of those energizer bunnies for this program. You see a nice little sack. I believe that was from Jesse Lucetta yet again, and Arnold Abicati, who's been a force up front for this Penn State defense. And here on the right-hand side, how about Marquise Wilson? Nice little play right there. Good play on the defensive side from Daquan Hardy, who also had an interception in this contest. And here we are on 1st and 10, third quarter, 6 minutes left. Jesse Lucetta with that pick 6, the very first of his career. Talked about grasping that ball on the left side, carrying it into the end zone. Can't wait to hear about what the conversation is tomorrow when watching that film. Once again, Jesse Lucetta with the first interception of his career, the first pick 6 to help Penn State maximize that lead in this contest. 14-3, here we are, second quarter, 12:01 left on the clock. 2nd and 4. Here's a rush towards the right side. That's Kevon Lee, who we hope to hear from momentarily. And then Kevon Lee on the left side. Nice little pickup on the first down. See right there, 6 rushes, 44 yards at this point in the game. 14-16 left on the clock. Woo! Explosive play from Kevon Lee right there towards the right side. Here he is again, third quarter, 13:45 left on the clock. Gets that ball stripped, but falls back on it, picks up that first down, as they say. Big-time game for Kevon Lee, 44-13, the final score in this contest. Coughing up a storm. That's all right. We're going to fight through it as we await Kevon Lee to be able to come on the Unrivaled Postgame Show and join us to wrap up a full day of coverage from Beaver Stadium. Started things out with the Unrivaled pregame show out at Team Arrival. Saw the Blue Band come in, the Lionettes perform, the Nittany Lion do some one-armed push-ups, and then ultimately the Penn State football team came walking in to an eruption of a couple thousand people out at Team Arrival, cheering them on as they came into the stadium. And we shifted the attention towards this contest between Penn State and Ball State, and here we are wrapping it up with the Unrivaled post-game show. Do we have any questions from the viewers about this contest, about next week, about week 1, whatever it might be? If you have any questions, be sure to submit it, and then we'll try to get those answered as we go along here for a couple more minutes, awaiting Kevon Lee, who will address the media. The sophomore running back was just 66 yards shy of that 500 career rushing yard mark today, and that was eclipsed by him as he picked up 68. 2 yards was enough to eclipse that mark from Kevon Lee. How about him and Noah Kane? Dynamic duo in the backfield as Noah Kane, the junior running back, also had a pretty good game in the backfield. Overall, Penn State's rushing offense dramatically improved in this contest versus week 1. That passing offense continues to be a success for first-year offensive coordinator Mike Yurcich and company. As I mentioned earlier, the rushing offense for the Nittany Lions, when gaining 200 or more rushing yards, they're 27-5. That's 32 times in the era of James Franklin. On the flip side of that, rushing defense just as successful when holding opponents to 100 yards or less on the ground, which has been done now 35 times since 2014. Penn State is 28-6 in those contests. 44-13, the final score here in Happy Valley, as you get a live look at what's going on behind us right now as Penn State and the Penn State football program, everybody here from the maintenance workers to the police to anybody else, wrapping things up for game number 1 back here inside Beaver Stadium. Let's go back to that Dwyer story one more time. If you're just joining us, the Patrick Dwyer story was featured on GoPSUSports.com as well as Penn State football's social channels, remembering Penn State alumnus Patrick Dwyer, who passed away tragically on the 105th floor on this very day 20 years ago, as our country and everybody around the world continues to remember those that passed away on 9/11. Tragic day in America's history, but as Steve Jones said on the Unrivaled Pregame Show, we're better together, we're stronger, and we'll continue to turn the page as one here in the nation. But we'll never forget this tragic day 20 years ago. I'm sure everybody's got a story about where they were, what they were doing back at that time, back in that day. 8:46 in the morning, that first tower was hit. Then from there, it was a tough day for America. Patrick Dwyer passing away on the 105th floor of Tower Number 1 in the World Trade Center. Sean Clifford walking by the tunnel right there with Greg Kincaid, one of the SIDs for this Penn State football program. Sean Clifford had a overall pretty successful day, was able to get some good reps in and be comfortable. Saw a question pop up on the screen. Let's try to get that answered here. Marsha wants to know, any chance there is a recording of the pregame show and or the halftime show for this of us that who see none of it on TV? So the pregame show, absolutely. Go back to Facebook, Twitter, Live Vision, whichever your streaming source is, and check out the Unrivaled Pregame Show. And then the Unrivaled Postgame Show will also be stored there, so be sure to go back and watch that. And then the Patrick Dwyer special clip, or special feature rather, will also be on those 3 platforms. Halftime show, unfortunately, we're not able to stream due to broadcast rights, but hopefully you're able to come be a part of the action here in the near future. All right, let's visit with our final guest of the day, running back Kevon Lee, who eclipsed the 500-yard rushing mark today and helped Penn State move to 2-0 on the season. Kevon, you were able to pick up 68 yards on the ground and get some momentum from your overall ground game in this one, picking up over 200 yards as a collective group. What was the biggest thing that you took away?
Biggest thing is just my read keys. You know, from last week we had to bounce back and show them that Long Boys is like we coming.
You said that looking back to last week, you had to obviously bounce back in this performance today. What was the message from Jay Wan's side of the running backs coach throughout the week?
Yeah, we got to prove the world like who we are. People don't know about the Long Boys right now, so we got to make our mark.
How do you continue that momentum as a group as you now ultimately shift the page towards another big-time opponent, week 3?
I mean, like he says, all momentum. We just like one step at a time, 6-second mentality. Every day we just get better, make each other better, and we got to come out and do the same thing every week, stay consistent.
Consistency is a part of your game. It's a part of this running back group's game every single week. When it comes to consistency, what do you do day in and day out to help yourself become an impact player on this field?
I mean, just the basics. You know, I make sure I keep the same schedule. Like at this time I'm doing this, at this time I'm doing this before practice. Like I do my daily stretches, just keeping everything consistent, and it just helped me every day.
Noah Kane has continued to be one of those impact players for this program. I see a smile on your face. How has he helped push you to be the back that you are?
I mean, like with consistency, he helped me a lot. Like coming into college, I wasn't really like doing what I need to do to get ready to step up at the next level. So he kind of helped me, like he took me and guided me. Him, Journey, even Devin, they all like guided me. Oh, I got to do this and do that. Like just made sure that I was up to date with everything.
You mentioned Journey Brown, and he's continued to be on the sidelines when you guys play at home. What type of leader is he to the running back position room still to this day, not being able to play?
I mean, he a big leader. Like even if like I'm down, Devin down, Noah down, it's like he bring all the energy. He like the battery of the Long Boys because he always bring the energy. He always get us started and crank us up.
On the defensive side of the football, Jesse Lucetta picked up his first pick 6 on the day. We just chatted with him. He talked about grabbing that one with his left-hand paw and carrying it into the end zone. We're going to take a look at the highlight right now. From Jesse Lucetta's perspective, from your perspective rather, how important is it to see a guy like Jesse Lucetta get that momentum in not only this game, but leading forward the rest of the season?
Man, I didn't see the catch like mid-play, but I seen it on the replay, and we just like the whole offensive side just went crazy because it was like it's Jesse, like you say, like we are so happy for him. We were just like, finally, he got what he deserved. Like he been working so hard, in and out, day and night. So I'm proud of him.
He's got some running back hands, wide receiver hands. How would you grade that?
Hey, I don't know. Hey, tell Hun to be on the lookout.
on the lookout. All right, as you guys now ultimately turn the page, you try to enjoy this moment, right?
Yes, sir.
So when you go back in the locker room, how do you celebrate with your teammates to be able to capitalize on the 1-0 mantra?
I mean, the music on, we just dancing and just jumping around, just being a family. What family do when they on top and be successful.
Family is a huge part of this program, and that will continue to be one of the mantras moving forward.
Facts.
Kevon Lee, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
As he eclipses the 500 career yard rushing mark today. To help his career out. Obviously, that's a big-time mark.
Yes,
you
sir.
can certainly put that microphone down. Enjoy the rest of your day. Appreciate you, Kevon Lee. 44-13, the final score in this contest. As we caught up with head coach James Franklin, we heard from running back Kevon Lee and linebacker / defensive end Jesse Lucetta, who had the first pick 6 of his career. That's going to do it from Beaver Stadium for the first time in 651 days. It was a max capacity crowd, and oh boy, does next week shape up to be a good one. We'll see you next Saturday on the Unrivaled Pregame Show.